as I was walking down south over to the plaza to get to the Domino's, on the sidewalk, I could see that there was a covert, you know, police. What do you call it? It's like a cruiser. We call it police cruiser, and it's like a four-wheeler mid-size SUV with a battering ram at the front. Um, and it's 8 p.m. and it's getting dark, like navy blue skies, and people are driving. Some are speeding, and he would catch them for tickets. So I know that's annoying, right? It gets annoying for a lot of people who are driving. That's what they do though, just to give a little warning. Anyways, as I'm passing by, I bought the Domino's, I checked out the food court, I sit down, and then this police cruiser now drives around, stops right in front of Domino's. I'm literally just about 5 meters, I'm sorry, I'm like 10 meters away, and I'm waiting for the order. Now, if you can't tell, I've mentioned this before. I've got CPTSD, I've got some issues mentally from disorder and from stemming from long-term domestic abuse. And it's not the only disorder that I have. And, public harassment, things in the residence are spilled out. I'm receiving slander, rumors, people harassing me publicly, verbal harassment, but also physically. People have tugged my hair and trying to intimidate me and saying, you fucking menace society, you should die, you should kill yourself. I received death threats out in public. And it's partly because I can't really, everyone's got some sort of disorder, but you can usually put it under the rug. I can't do that. If you can't tell, it's very overt. I dress like a security guard, and I don't have the security guard on me, so people kind of freak out, and they start harassing me. They get angry, they start shouting, screaming. Especially during 2022, people were really, really oversensitive. I think things are slightly better now in 2023, halfway into 2023, as people have started to have at least a year and a half worth of work experience, engaging back in the public after the pandemic. People are starting to regain their senses again. But most importantly, the stupid younger generation, like it's always the high school kids too, and the middle-aged women, they're the worst. Always judgmental, always creating a problem where there's no problem. Always judging a book by its cover. They don't have any common sense at all. So, anyways, they would, constantly harass me, and it was happening everywhere I go. So unsurprisingly, I started to put on even more of this gear. And as this officer's driving by, long story short, he's on guard too. And so here's the juicy part, right? It's like juicy. It's like studio gag type content right here. So he drops on by. Studio Gag's a reaction channel. We don't cover this kind of content. But he drives around, and he stops over. He's like, he gets out of the cruiser, right? And he's a little cautious. He stops. He doesn't really know what to do. It takes him about 2-3 minutes before he comes out. And the first thing, he opens the door, and I'm laughing because I'm like, there's no way. Because there's even more backstory to this. Because the previous 2 days beforehand, I had gone to the same division. So we divide in our city the police into several divisions based on the geographic location, right? So they're tending to different areas of the greater area. If you can't tell, I've just kind of given a big hint as to which city I'm living in. But the point is, his particular division is not actually where my current residence is, nor is it where my new place I would call home is. Blah, 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 blah. It's not where my current residence is. It's not where my new place is. It's somewhere in between. But I frequent that place fairly often because it has a lot of, amenities, facilities that I need to make use of professionally, such as the library and, stuff like that. And so, this officer, his division, I went over to his division just 2 days beforehand. It's actually phenomenal because not only is the Domino's, this fast food court, not just fast food, it's great food around my storage area with great security. Even better security is actually, I didn't know, but behind my unit is the division. There's a building for the police division, and I actually went there 2 days beforehand to explore it and also to file a bit of a report because people just won't leave me the fuck alone. And about 2 weeks ago, there was a real incident of a stabbing. Someone got stabbed multiple times. I mentioned this in one of my previous videos. By the way, I know that NBA, I know that some people here are coming in from Midwest states, so all the more welcome. I love how grounded people are over in the prairies, anyways. But anyways, he's coming in, and I went over there and I wanted to file a report. Not a report, but I wanted to at least tip them off. There's an escalating situation, right? I'm starting to want to retaliate, and even though I don't live in this current residence, they gave me the runaround and said, listen, this is not your area, then, well, we can't really, here's the phone number, go over there. And we had, just a general, okay, that's cool. And so I took a slip and went over there. Instead, now, there's a slip there, we can talk about that in a future video, but the point is, today, that night, on the Domino's Pizza, that cruiser was a police officer, 25 minutes already, I knew it, also came from the same division. And so we can't cover the receipts, guys. I'm not going to cover the receipts because it's half an hour video. It's crazy. But basically what ended up happening is he comes out, right? And I'm laughing. I was like, this is amazing. I want to talk to him, but at the same time, I know that he's going to be uptight because he takes a look at me. I mean, what do you think? So he comes out, and the first thing he does, he's like, you okay? And like, I laugh. I'm like, we're good. And he throws on a bulletproof vest. And I have never seen one of these before. It's not something, I thought he just wore one. I'm pretty sure he does. But this was something on top. So he thought I was armed, basically. He threw this, when you're in elementary school, in middle school or high school, when you're playing like pretend field football or whatever, where you don't actually check each other. It's like a pussy version of football where you just wear one of these the gym jerseys, right? It's like a jersey, a throw over jersey, colored throw over jersey over your neck, and it has no sleeves. And then that's what he threw on. He just slung it over his head. There's a hole for his head, and then goes on, covers down the front and the back. And I've never seen this before. I thought that was hilarious. And I thought that was, wow, that's very useful. Except it's not very, ordinary civilians can't really wear that because it's so overt. If you came out there wearing stuff like that, people freak the hell out. They freak out around me. What would happen if you came out here slinging a bulletproof vest over the front and the back? But he went in there after that. He's like, all right, whatever. Ignores me. He goes into Domino's, comes out, and then I go, while he's inside making his order, I was like, I have an opportunity here that I was really going to capitalize on. I said, people aren't leaving me alone, whether it's in the residence, whether it's in my blood. Well, that's changed now. The blood's kind of leaving me alone, but in the public as well. So I went just 2 days ago and I was turned away. I said, here is an opportunity because this guy I have his attention, whether I like it or not. And so he comes out and I go, so he asked me the question, you okay? And I called back, I said, hey officer, with a little bit more seriousness. I was like, hey officer, what if I told you I'm not okay? And so he takes, he stands there facing away from me for a moment to evaluate what he should do. And I think he knows that I'm of that same nature. It's because we're both kind of assessing the situation, right? This is just situational awareness for people who've been through, for him it's a job, for me it's a lifestyle. I can't really take off security gear without feeling like my life's gonna collapse. But that whole that feeling of danger is persistent. Yeah, I can't describe to you what it's like to live with a certain type form of PTSD. You really there's no stability. And so, but I don't take it off and he does it for a job. So we both understand this, and he's making a judgment. He's making a call and says, okay, do you need an ambulance? He's like, he hops over, and then we had this conversation. Now I'm not gonna go through the details. So first of all, obviously he was kind of, at the beginning, he was like making sure, okay, so he's not a threat. But even if he's not, what, I can't really help you here because coming from the officer's perspective, I only attend to emergencies. He's like, do you need an ambulance? How am I supposed to help you? Because there's very limited things I can do for you. And I know that, I'm aware of that. You tend to emergencies, your main resource for people who are experiencing fire, murder, crime, and theft, that kind of stuff, right? Substance abuse and so on and so forth. And so for the most part, I was not expecting very much to happen. That was the first conversation, actually. So here's the interesting part. There was more than one conversation. So the first part, after that 31 minutes, guys, this is a long ass video podcast, but he leaves and after saying, I can't remember what it was, but because that's not the most interesting part, honestly. I detailed him that, well, there's a case of domestic abuse and my case has been approved by the city, but it's continuing. And it's not necessarily the blood anymore, but it's spread out into the residents, further into the neighborhood, and then even into the public. And it's escalating to the point where I feel like I have to retaliate. And I have had to harass some people because they would not stop harassing me for months on end within this household. And it got to the point where, I said, this is not good, because I don't want to get to this point. I'm not supposed to be having to respond in this fashion just to get some sense of, I shouldn't have to harass you for you to leave me the fuck alone. All right? And so, that's why I reached out to the police division, actually, 2 days prior to that. And so he comes and he says, there's not very much you can do. He says, if you need anything, just call 211 or whatever. It's a different line for social services and whatnot. I said, I already have a counselor, caseworker for that. He's like, yeah, well then speak to your caseworker about that. So then he leaves, and he was a little bit on edge, right? Because he doesn't know what to predict about me, doesn't know what to think. And but then about a minute afterwards, I'm like, okay, cool, all right, you do your thing. Thanks for hearing me out. He's like, yeah, take care. And then we part ways. And I think that's about it. I said, that's fine. And in the backdrop, the worst part is I could tell was that, I say the worst part, it's not that bad. Basically, there's a vehicle in the far back in the distance. First of all, Domino's guy walks out, he sees the altercation, he gives me a look, he thinks that there's something wrong with me, right? So unfortunately, one of the guys in the Domino's saw my altercation, he's like, oh shit, this guy's up to something. Like, no, it's not. But anyways, the worst part though is on the other side of the parking lot, there's a recognizable red car with some young, like, Chinese, Mandarin speaking folk, or Cantonese speaking folk, I think Cantonese speaking. And it's the worst because I know that they know me. And this is a regular occurrence. Like, people will literally follow me around. People will drive, they will stop just to look at me. Some will have circled around. They have stopped, circled around, given me glances, given some laughs, and then they drove off after in the opposite direction again. So this is not surprising to me because sometimes I can tell it's the same people. And some of them are actually directly related to this household. So it's actually been escalated to the point where the abuser inside this household, their in-laws are involved and they're harassing me out in public. They're going around and they're literally following me around. That just happened actually a couple days ago at a McDonald's nearby. They saw me and they deliberately, while there are empty seats everywhere else, they came with 4 of them, just sat directly behind me and my buddy. This was the same night that I had that Chinese food right here, this hardfish with my buddy. And we went over to McDonald's and we had this is a long ass video. So much storytelling, 40-minute video. And so I would sit down, and then 4 of them, there's like 2 men, 2 women. Some in like 50s. The other 2 are probably like, one of them was like a young adult, maybe in like their 25 to 30s or whatever. Basically, you could think of like Gen X and Gen Z, whatever, right? Something like that. And then they just would not stop laughing and talking and ridiculing and saying, these kids in Canada would behave or throw temper tantrums. And the irony is that they were the ones who were. The thing that they don't know is that basically person in this household was the one throwing temper tantrum for 3 months straight. And then beforehand, for almost like 2.5 years, it was actually my biological birth givers were doing the same thing. So it was very much just a reaction. But anyways, the point is, I put that aside. The point is, these same people, their relatives were following me around even halfway across the city. And they were listening in on the conversation between me and the officer. Now, I didn't tip off the officer, but he seemed to get a clue because, again, situational awareness for people like us in emergency services. I worked in a hospital before. I used to volunteer there. I also have these, I have my own psychiatrist for the most part. And then you have the officer here who obviously is trained in emergency services. That's his career. And so both of us are aware that there's this car of youngsters, speaking like Chinese and stuff, like Cantonese, right? They're within, we can see them, and they're listening in. They're pretending to have a conversation amongst each other, but they're really listening to us. Okay? And we both can tell because we're not fucking stupid. Both me and the officer can tell. He drives off and he comes back after about a minute, rethinking about his decision about the early conversation. I think it was largely, this is something that we do also. Like I would do this also. If I feel a little bit, up in angst, just kind of common sense, you leave, you gather yourself, you rethink about what just happened. And if you believe that there's reason to come back again, you come back again, more collected, more composed, which is what the officer does. He drives around, comes back about 2-3 minutes later. And then he speaks to me. He's like, hey, you got a phone number? I have a phone number you can take down. So now he's offering some concrete help after thinking about, okay, so this guy's not a threat. He's not a Looney Tune. He's not some crazy, he's not going to shoot me up with like a shotgun, the whole bulletproof vest is unnecessary. This is just some guy who's going through a really bad time, really rough time. He's being harassed by the public. He's also experiencing domestic abuse. And that's why he looks like he's armed. It's because he's actually not here to hurt other people. He's here to defend himself. And that's exactly what I'm saying. All this shit here that people keep harassing me over is for my own security, for my own defense. It has nothing to do with you. Stay out of my business, mind your own business, and leave me the fuck alone. Look what they can't do. So basically he tells me, okay, listen, here's a number. He provides me a number, and I said, I'm familiar with this organization, the Gerstein Clinic, whatever, and for crisis and stuff like that. And then he also says, he decides to chime in on something about the topic, because he wants to let me know, things that you can and cannot do. And it says, no matter what you do, don't resort to violence. And that was a key thing for me. That I remember that was the most important highlight of that entire conversation. Because I said, when he said that, I just bursted out laughing. I was like, all I can say is, listen, I told you that I felt like I had to retaliate already. And I've already had to harass people who are harassing me just very recently. And they've been doing it for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. And I've only done that once in the past 2 months, past 2 weeks. And it wasn't physical. I just laughed my ass at them and I chased them outside the house with laughter. I ridiculed them the same way they ridiculed me for the past 6 months. And they got a taste of their own medicine, but even for just 2 hours, they couldn't handle it and they left. But what the fuck? You've been doing that to me for 6 months' time. I do it to you for 2 hours. What kind of fucking double standards are you? Hypocrisy, right? So basically that happens. And I said, that's an altercation I didn't want to get to. But it's come to that point, and that's when I went to the police division. So then he tells me, he's like, that's fine, whatever, but don't resort to violence, right? No matter, and I just laugh. I'm like, it's been 10 months, it's been ongoing. I didn't come to you, with a one incidental concern. I'm coming to you because people won't stop. Months, not weeks, not months. It's been years now, actually, for different people. So, anyways, he comes to me. He says, he repeats himself. He's like, even after I say, it's been 10 months, like, it doesn't matter. It's not going to help them, but it's especially not going to help you. Don't resort to violence, right? If you need our help, just call us. Call us, right? He says, don't resort to violence, right? If people are harassing you in the public, in the household, whatever, call us and we'll put an end to it. We'll stop, okay? But don't do it yourself. Don't do it yourself. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help them. It's not going to help you. Call us and we'll put an end to it. And that was the main thing I wanted to hear. That was the main thing I wanted to hear, right? Because, when you're in a situation like this where people are maliciously hunting you down, I described this to a different police officer. I called a different constable about a week prior to report this incident. I said, there's an escalating situation. I wanted detail on this. And, I said, common sense, not so common. Some of these people actually take pleasure in your pain. There's actual sadistic malice and intent. They actually want to hurt you. They get a kick out of it. They find it amusing. And they won't stop. right? Like I said, people have chased me around the police station. They tug on my hair, they call me menace to society. They don't know what I have worked for 7 years when you guys were fucking around on like Twitch and like doing nothing and like pretending to be rappers. I was out there being an essential worker before essential workers were even a thing, before the pandemic, before people called essential workers essential, whatever. I was already doing jobs that were in first aid, hospital care, and stuff like that. The intense sense of betrayal I'm experiencing right now is quite phenomenal, and very unpleasant to say the least. To have the people who you took care of turn their back on you and basically stab you in the back in every way possible, and then get a real kick out of it and find that amusing, and then chase you relentlessly, and they just won't leave you alone. Which is why there was like a stabbing recently, because somebody just wouldn't leave them alone, and then fuck around and find out they got stabbed up. Not endorsing that kind of thing. That's obviously awful. You're not supposed to do that. But if you harass people, don't be surprised when they turn around and you get a taste of your own medicine. So long story short, he said, I don't want this. I'm the one here who's just trying to get people to leave me alone. I just want to do my job and do my business. And I convey this to the officer that, if you need help, call us. We'll put an end to the harassment. Don't you do it yourself. Don't you do it yourself, right? Seek help. Seek help from us. And that was the main takeaway there, because, like I said, when you're in a situation like this, oftentimes you feel so cornered, because it's not just your blood or it's basically when you're being harassed by the public. I can't describe to you how ominous that is. It's like cancel culture, right? Except it's even worse than cancel culture online. It's happening in physical, materializing in reality. Everywhere you go to get your groceries, to board the bus, to go to work, to come back from the library, everywhere you go, right? So it's actually quite an ominous feeling, because it's like you're basically being isolated for doing nothing by everyone. And that's how it feels like. I can't describe to you what it feels like to have basically the entire world turn in on you for basically caring at one point for them, and then having them now spit on you and chase you down to hell and want you to die. So that's how it feels like. That's how it feels like. And to have someone here who is up there in the authorities, the police service, the officer himself, and say, no, we care. Okay, we care. And we don't want you to do this alone. Don't do it alone. Call us for help, and we will stop them. I don't, if it's public, well, we're gonna do something about that, whatever we can. I know we can't do anything. That's, it's hard to catch the public, but there's something, whatever we can do, we'll do it, right? But call us and don't do it yourself. And that just provides a sense that, it's literally the cure for isolation, right? Having someone here be in your corner who actually has the power and the authority to do something when you don't, when you're being ostracized, being ridiculed, when you have concerns and people judge you and they criticize you and they don't take you seriously. And then here's someone who actually will take you seriously, who will listen, who will consider what's going on. And here's someone who can actually do something. So this is a very long
safety features like blind spot collision avoidance
I obviously
assist
cannot
and
cover the
more,
receipt.
so you can travel anywhere
There's a lot
with
of garbage
guidance
to
by
get
your
rid of,
side. The
but
Seltos helps
that's
keep you out
something
of
that
harm's
is
way
really
during
important
all
to
your
cover.
trips.
And you can
Upgrade
tell
to
it's a
vehicle
story.
that
This
lets
is a
you live fully by
storytelling thing.
combining adventure
I don't know
with
how I'm going to
safety.
pin this out here.
Secure
It's
your
like
new
45 minutes. I'm going to cut it in
2024 Kia
half. I'm not
Seltos at
sure.
your local dealer. Visit kia.ca for
But
details.
that's something that I want to
Kia.
mention. I'm going to throw that out
Movement that
there.
inspires.
I don't know how I'm going to do this, but that's
Looking for
that's
a way
the
to
whole story.
relax after a long
And,
day.
I'm going to put an end to this video, but thanks for tuning and listening, and I'm going to hop on over, because we're not done with the whole video making stuff. We really have to clean up everything here, so most likely, even though I have a 45-minute video now, I'm still going to try and punch out another one, and most likely I'm not going to cut the video in half forever, because I just have other stuff I need to do. That's important. But anyways, hopefully you enjoy this story, right? It's definitely more heavy. It's got more heavy content, but that's where the juicy stuff is, right? It's always, that's where the juicy stuff is. Again, I haven't given any names. There's no locations, no addresses, or anything. And that's the reason for that, of course, is privacy, confidentiality. I don't want to really, disclose anything. of any personal nature about anyone, even people I don't like. Don't give any names, don't give any ideas or addresses, anything like that. Which, for the record, by the way, here's a funny thing, right? The people who are abusing me, who are harassing me, they have no problem like pointing out. They're singling me out and they're spreading rumors directly. They're talking specifically. They're really throwing my name out there and stuff like that. And I don't know why I'm still giving them the charity, the benefit of doubt. Like, I'm basically whatever privacy and confidentiality I'm giving to them, it's not being reciprocated from them over to me. In fact, they're the instigators in the first place. So I don't even know what I'm doing sometimes. I wonder, maybe I should just stop, but I don't want the situation to get more out of hand than it already is. And knowing that I have some help along the way, which I'm going to actually have a coffee with another officer later on today, to serve and protect. I appreciate what they do. I've always had a real appreciation, admiration for people who are doing actually real important jobs in society, in healthcare, in finance, in law enforcement. My entire life, you can tell, like, I spent, at least my degree is in, biomedical science. I wanted to become, some sort of doctor along the way, and I volunteered for a healthcare organization, and stuff like that. And I have a security mindset. Everything I do is, again, just like domains of life of the Animal Project, right? The coping mechanisms, the strategy, just to manage to really get the priorities straight. And I really appreciate and admire what these folk do, what these people do, whether it's police, firefighters, nurses, people who are actually doing real jobs that have a lot of responsibility, and basically they save lives, and I've benefited from that now personally. So this is a really long video. Thanks for tuning in. I'm gonna check this one out. I don't know if I'm gonna cut it up into pieces, but I know that it's something I have to get off the chest. Again, there's a lot of garbage here that I recycle, and I still have to cover the receipts, so I don't know how this is gonna work out, but it had to be done, so we're gonna take care of that. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys in the next one, and peace out. Again, thanks to the people who are listening, subscribers and whatnot. Here's a little animation, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.